I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Attack on Titan Season 4, Episode 28. Last episode, we had a little bit of a confrontation. Very stressful, very conflicting, and a little bit sad because it came at the cost of Daz and Samuel's life. Right before we sat down to record, Anna was like, wait, wasn't Daz the person that Historia went to save on the cliff with Ymir? And I was like,
I'm pretty
right.
sure. Pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure as well. But it's just we've been through so much with these characters, and to see Connie and Armin have to be put in the position that they were in.
Oh, specifically Connie.
Yeah.
I mean, what he had to do there.
You can't justify your actions in that amount of time. It was just, I don't know. It was a lot. And I think it was necessary for the story to include. But it was just hard to see.
And it was hard to see, but it was done so well because of the complex emotions that are being shown on a face of a character as they're doing something, an action that hurts and pains them. Connie's face during that interaction.
The animation of his expressions was just 10 out of 10. Kiyomi is alive after fighting against Flock. Mikasa came in and saved the day. And yeah, Reiner and Annie are currently fighting together. It's kind of surreal, honestly.
We got that awesome shot that we loved of Flock in the air, and then Reiner going this way and Annie going the other way behind him, and then boom.
It's so interesting. Like, and Levi's just kind of benched there.
Just watching.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that's a question mark for us of like, is that really Levi's like end to the story, is that he doesn't actually do anything in this last
Well, you know what's interesting?
action?
Since season, 3-ish, we've gotten, Levi having this personal vendetta against Zeke for obvious reasons. But Annie's sitting there oh yeah, I wiped out Team Levi, but, I'm just, part of the mission right now. There wasn't, any confrontation there yet. Maybe there will be. I don't know. I wonder if Levi's going to be able to offer up any physical,
Other than feeding him someone with a Titan power.
Yeah, he's pretty hurt. It's weird to see because usually
it's so weird.
Because usually I have him in my back pocket, when everything goes to shit.
Just take Mikasa out of this back pocket, and take Levi out of the other, and just kind of throw them at the enemy.
I don't know. Good episode last episode. We're approaching the end of what Crunchyroll has to offer, which is pretty sad, and feels weird.
It does feel weird.
But I'm excited to get in the next episode. Are you ready?
Yes.
Sweet. Let's get this airship. Oh, man.
He reached for him. Wow. And to have that action happening in the background. It's no time to grieve.
Oh!
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's not going to be a quick hop on and go. Half a day? How much damage can Eren do during that time? Jesus.
4
4
days.
days. A hangar. Odiha. How long will that take?
If all we have is a gamble.
Retrospective.
I like that word. It's a good word.
Cool camera work. Oh! What's Flock gonna do? God damn.
Flock is gonna at least try to kill some of them.
Nice, Mikasa.
Ha! Hanji!
Oh, nice. Reiner's been through worse. Oh my god.
He's a really good shot.
Right? Oh, good animation there.
Oh, lost a hand.
Oh!
In the face!
Reiner tanked it. Jesus Christ.
What a way to phrase that to them.
Do you think Flock envisions himself as somewhat akin to Erwin? No
Stop.
shot!
Is he really? It has to happen though. It's gonna happen. Oh. He wouldn't, you're right.
Oh!
Oh, he would have done this too though! Shit.
Fucking locomotive.
So cool.
Who?
Who are we not thinking of? Oh, this reminds me of Eren!
Oh! They need help.
Can Jean help Falco in any way? Connie!
Oh! The animation! Holy shit! Oh my god, Connie! I'm worried.
Oh, no! We were scared about him dying!
Oh! Fuck.
We'll never stop.
Oh!
Oh, and Levi has to watch this whole thing.
This is when, like, I want Levi to help, but... Alright.
Falco!
Whoa!
Oh! What?
He looks like a chicken. I don't know. Whoa. God, the animation. Oh! Jesus, I hate how cool Flock is right now.
Connie. Holy. No. Connie, oh my god, Connie's gonna jump in front of it. What was all that?
Bloodstained water. Oh! Jesus! Holy shit, their budget! What the... Oh! The choreography! Holy shit! Oh my god. It's never a 100% safe first transformation, right?
Does he have control? Is he gonna cut him out or something?
It's almost like, oh my god, the first time Eren was taken out. Oh man, gonna give him time? Oh!
happy right now.
なぜあんたは船に乗らなかった。あれはマーレ軍から鹵獲した巡洋仲間を乗せた輸送船などすぐさま撃たれ、ならば手を貸そう。
What a
I
combination.
never knew I needed this.
俺は弾薬庫に火をつけるまでだ。海に飛び込むなら今だぞ。
Holy shit.
滅ぶのはこの島かもしれんぞ。これからは南へ向かう。
It was him.
兄レオンハートを連れ胸が震えた。もし増援を食い止めなければ我々はここまで。
He killed people he
世界を
trained.
救った英雄の一人となるだろう。自分を誇ることなどできない。手を置きながら子供たちを指導し、壁を
Ignoring my
破壊するように命
conscience.
じた。あの子たちがただ普通に生きることができたら
All done stuff, yeah.
どんなに嬉しかったか。俺はあんたを誇りに思う。その子たちも同じだ。ところで名前はキース・シャーです。あんたは
This is the most manly thing I've ever seen.
レオン・マガト。
No sound, just music.
レベリオを救う道はもう私は降りる。だが彼は命を賭して私たちを先へ進レベリオやマーレのためじゃない。人々を一人でも多く救えと
He names he
Wow.
never.
託すためだ。エレンを殺そうとするのをあんたは見てられる。あんたと殺し合いたくない。エレンとも
Not even Aaron.
Okay, that was Attack on Titan, Season 4, Episode 27. Outstanding episode. Outstanding episode. This is great. I hope Levi's okay. We didn't see him. I'm sure he's on the ship.
I'm sure he's on the ship, and still, if they bench such a major character, I don't know the choice, like why you'd make a choice like that, other than trying to highlight other characters or I don't do something different that people wouldn't expect, because no one would expect that you would bench one of the most badass, powerful characters on the show.
How much would have the events of the past 2 episodes changed if we also had Levi in the mix?
I
And-
mean, there's some emotional things that wouldn't have happened. There's some consequences that wouldn't have happened that narratively, I guess, needed to happen.
Well, do you agree with the idea that if Levi was at 80% even, he could have impacted the last few episodes in a way that wouldn't have made it as tense of a situation? Do you think we would have like steamrolled the enemy? It would have been easy win, GG.
I'm going to say there's a possibility Falco wouldn't have transformed. I think that's the only person I'll take out of the equation if I'm putting Levi into the equation.
Yeah.
Because if they had one, obviously Falco was one more fighter. So if you remove that one more fighter, and we succeeded, we left. So if we remove that one more fighter and replace with Levi, which is much more experienced than Falco, yes, he's not a Titan, but he is experienced and badass. So I feel like maybe it would have stopped the whole interaction of Falco transforming and choosing to do so because he feels like his predecessors would have chosen to do so, and then having Peak both tell him not to and then hold him down, hold him back while Magath cut him out.
Yeah.
There were some things in there narratively that were probably needed to happen for Magath's ending. And for Peak now being kind of the one that is maybe in charge of the children in a way. Like being more the one that is has that role of kind of looking out for them, taking care of them the most.
I feel like my first thought would be, okay, Levi or like something like Falco, like the Jaw Titan. We're not fighting against Titans, we're fighting against people. So I would be like, oh yeah, Titan, definitely great to have rather than a person, bigger shield for people, destruction. All that went away once the animation popped off and I saw what not only Mikasa could do, holy shit, but Connie, Hanji, everybody was like, you saw like the skill gap.
Oh, yeah.
Like at how effective ODM gear and swords alone can be against all these people with the same thunder spears and guns if you are efficient enough.
It's so good because what we were told when we first arrived on this scene before starting this whole plan was, wow, they have a lot of anti-Titan gear.
Yeah.
Thunder spears. But it's like, that's you forgetting the element of people versus people again. Like, it seems like maybe Flock wasn't really worried about the threat of a human non-Titan traitor.
Yeah.
And it seems like they were ill-equipped to fight against superior ODM skills.
I think it's easy to not think about, too, because, I mean, yeah, like this whole thing's shoved down your throat that the thing you have to worry about are the people who can transform into Titans.
Right,
you
if
know?
you could only carry a certain amount of weaponry on your person as you're swinging around, and you were told, oh, there's going to be Annie and Reiner in Titan form, but there's also going to be, like, Mikasa over here. I think you'd be like, ooh, dude, okay, which should I prepare for the most? Which should I fight the most?
It is not a position I would want to be in, like, being one of the Jaegerists here, because, like, of course, your attention is immediately going to be the massive creatures in front of you, causing insane levels of damage, debris flying at you, and at the same time, you have to look out of your corner of your eyes to try to tell ally apart from foe in human, like, fellow humans, and it's crazy. I do not envy them. I do not envy the Jaegerists.
And maybe a lot of the Jaegerists. It seems like Samuel and Dawes, they were both so emotional in their interaction with Connie and Armin last episode, to the point where you could put it maybe that in the brains of the Jaegerists, these people who just chose to join this cause, they might not actually believe that one of their own countrymen actually would be a traitor to them.
Yeah.
So then they would automatically think, I'd be wary of the Marlians that have Titan powers, So I think adding this element of, like, Mikasa's fighting, but also Connie and Jean. I love that Jean he wasn't fighting with ODM gear.
Yeah.
I like that there was this mix of, like, fighting with, like, guns, Marlian guns, Titans.
Do you think
traditional weaponry from Attack on Titan?
Do you think Jean was the one who shot Flock in the air?
That's a good question. I don't think there was, like... I didn't get any major signifier of who it was when it happened. I thought Connie was going to jump in front of the Thunder Spear and get blown to bits.
And I'm so glad that didn't happen. I was so scared that was going to happen as well.
As soon as they showed him, like, watching Flock jump up with Thunder Spear, which was, as you said, very awesome.
Flock had
so much awesome movement in this episode.
It's so cool. You don't often like the show has made it clear, there's no one villain all the time, and there's 1,000 shades of gray, right? Yeah. But if you had to dumb it down to, like, antagonist, protagonist, in this episode, you could potentially see Flock as the antagonist. And there are not a lot of animes that would go out of their way to show cool animation and movement of that, person in an episode. And it was really cool. Like, it makes you understand how Flock is an adversary who is strong,
and it's even more a strong adversary when, for the viewer, it's such a moral conundrum, because on some ends, it's like, okay, yes, they want the best for their people that they directly know, but that's not the point, because what was the last line we got? Magath did this for people he will never know the name of. Like, that is the thread right now of, like, people and who they're choosing to fight for. The Jaegerists are choosing to fight for the people that they know and see face to face every single day and live with, which is understandable to some extent of like what they're willing to do for it. And then we have this group of people who are doing the unthinkable of putting people they have never even met, a whole world of people they have never even met, above people that they've lived with and dined with and been friends with. And it's like, that's an unthinkable place that they have put themselves in, that it's like, to be able to do that.
I have a thought for you. So when I'm thinking of Theo and Keith and Annie even, right? This episode expressing the how they're tired of fighting, right? They want these kids that they've never even seen to not have to dedicate their lives to that and just live a happy life. It reminds me of season 1 when you could see the differences in scouts who have and haven't gone out on an expedition before, right? You can see how that changes a person. And I think through all of the trauma that we've seen characters like Armin, Connie, Annie, Reiner become tired of fighting and getting there.
Tired of walls, tired of fighting,
and
tired of killing.
And it all comes from the experience and weight and toll it takes on you through a period of time, right? And realizations. Do you think, my question for you is, do you think in a hypothetical world where Flock wins and then infighting happens down the line, if it like Kiyomi hinted at last episode, like it's not the end, right? Do you think given enough time Flock would ever come to the decision or point where he's like, well, I'm fucking tired of fighting?
I don't know. I feel like Flock's character had already decided for his life that he had nothing else to do other than this path. Like, I think that for him, he probably would have rather died in order to get some initial final attack in than rethink his actions.
But
or change his mind on his path.
I'm saying Flock wins, Eren wins. We live in a world that Kiyomi hinted at of the world will shrink. That's all. Infighting proceeds. Give it 25 years. Do you think Flock would ever... Do you think with the character development we've seen certain characters able to go through, like Gabby, for example, do you think given enough time, Flock would ever theoretically come to a point of being like, well, fuck, I'm tired?
I don't know, because you're going into a very closed up headspace once you're eradicating the world of all people that are unlike you.
Yeah.
That I feel like he will have that so much weight and pile up of what he's done that it'd be hard to kind of come back to a frame of mind where you're tired of fighting. I could see him, I don't know. Okay, I think what I'm trying to say is that after doing what he wants to do, if that happens and then the infighting starts, it's hard for me to imagine what the growth would be that would stop him from just eradicating every little threat and every little riot and every little difference in opinion.
Yeah.
You know, if he thinks that if he thinks he's the leader and he obviously has the best interest at heart for the country and he thinks Eren also does, I think he might be the instigator of the continuation of just kind of squashing any difference of opinion going forward.
That's fair. I, in my own head, I'm, imagining some theoretical what-if situation where 10 years down the line, things were going well, and then there seems to be, a Flock 2.0, right? And their ideals are slightly different, and Flock's like, oh, well, that's annoying, and then that whole ideal of thinking would continue, and there'd be, pestering him enough to get to the point of being like, well, fuck. I don't know. Just the character writing in this universe, I think, lends itself so well to hypothetical situations we could get to with certain characters because so much growth happens in the show.
Right. On Flock, though, in terms of I don't know if I wasn't feeling it, and it was there, but it didn't, that whole time, it didn't seem like he was emotionally affected by the deaths of the other Jaegerists, but more the possible losing in the situation. And then obviously he gives a very Erwin-esque speech, moment to them for the continuation of fighting. But it feels...
Think about Erwin
It
and how he
doesn't-
reacted to the deaths in the forest in season 1, though.
Yes, but Erwin had time and time and time to build to that mindset that he was at.
You're right.
Like,
No, you're right.
I don't... It's hard because we had more time maybe with getting to understand Erwin's character and how he got to be how he was by the end of his life. But there's also... I think Erwin finally had some major visualizations before his death of the weight of everything that he held. And maybe Flock would have that moment as well. We get those visualizations of all of the people standing around you. And you're totally right that Flock could at some point have a moment if in the future of all those people around him. If the future he wanted came to pass and infighting came down the line, then maybe he would have a moment where he's sitting with himself thinking on all of the people surrounding him, watching him from afar, where he is with his life and what he's doing.
I think that you're meant to draw loose, fickle parallels to Erwin from Flock, but completely subjectively, I'm like much more inclined to love a character and feel like the real, like, meaty character out of the two would be Erwin because of the goal, right? And the realization of that goal being selfish. And Erwin's curiosity is more compelling to me in a character than the die hard wanting this person to achieve, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get this person's goal and, like, to succeed. But
because it could possibly also seem like he just wants to be a leader in this big movement.
I think I just love the shallow deepness of a selfish reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because you know why? Because it feels understandable and realistic to you to think of someone doing something for selfish reasons.
Yeah.
For thinking of their own happiness, their own life, and their own preservation first.
Yeah.
It's not crazy to understand or dig into someone who is acting upon their self-interest.
But we don't get cutaway after cutaway of Flock being like, "Oh, I want to do this so I can live a cushy life and get all the
right."
and
he says that more for Jean. Like, didn't you want that?
But and I think that because we don't get that typical, like, archetype of a villain through Flock, it makes his character so much more compelling and interesting to watch because, like, it's not just a villain, right? Like, they have their own reasons, selfishly or not, and it's just me as an audience, member of the audience, being like, oh, I resonate more with this than this kind of thing.
I feel like I'm still trying to understand him. We do get him kind of in this triangle effect in this episode, which I think might be just one other big thing to bring up in terms of trying to figure out his character and maybe even what point in his growth and in his life he's in and where he could possibly get, which was your original question, which was probably like 10 minutes ago in the discussion, that I'm still trying to figure out and answer because I'm still trying to unlock how I feel and what I believe Flock would do as a character from whatever I've been given. But I think something I can clearly grasp onto is this triangle of people in power positions over a group of students and young people and soldiers. And we have Magath and Keith both sacrificing themselves at the very end, saying things along the lines of realizing that the people, these kids that they were training to do horrible things, they ended up wanting to protect and save. And then we have Flock as the other end of this triangle, all as commander, captain, type people with other people following them. Flock is trying to move into a position that is Erwin-esque. And all three of them, I don't know if Flock's dead, but it is interesting that Magath and Keith get this kind of ending moment of they chose to end their own life for people that they don't even know, and Flock chose to possibly do the last risky movement that possibly ended his life over the people he knows and his countrymen. And there's an interesting kind of relationship that's happening there in this episode.
See, and I think the origin of what had me asking that question was, what did it take for Theo and Keith to get to the point that they did? They were never shown to us as like an evil character. Okay, but like obviously they each have their own nuances and their
they
own
had
story.
Reasons for us to be like a little bit about them.
Of course, but like it took a lot to get to where the point that they are now. And I wonder how, just like theoretically, how Flock would react if he had the time and trauma that a lot of characters we know have had in the series. And it's like an interesting point of, I tend to resonate with the thought of, okay, I'm tired of fighting. We don't want these kids to fight. Get them out of the fucking forest, right?
Yeah.
But for a lot of characters, it takes seemingly a lot of time and personal trauma
and
to
build
get to
up of
and
it
build up
too,
to
like
get
more
to that
and more
point.
piling as the bodies pile up. Like if we think about Flock's kind of the action that has taken place in his life and is just this one big traumatic event where he is the sole survivor.
Yeah.
And then going forward, he lived everything was rather peaceful in trying to like come up with plans for a few years. We had time skips, you know, and he didn't have to live through what our other characters lived through with fighting Kenny and then being eaten alive by Titans and fighting Annie. And, you know, like there were things in there that he wasn't involved in. And so maybe that since his first thing and only thing that majorly started him on the track that he's on, it was so big and it was so pivotal to him. That maybe once he moves into that position of taking over the Erwin position or trying to take over that position, then going forward he would kind of see things in the way that Erwin would see things, which in a way would he make the same choice Erwin had that day where Erwin decides to ride with all of his soldiers? I think he would. Possibly.
For the betterment like of his cause?
Yeah, I think he would.
No.
So it's
I'm
interesting.
Still
trying to completely understand him. I think I'm like saying some things that I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that is what I think, and I think that makes
just
sense
to finish
for him.
the Flock point. I think that it goes to show how well written characters in the show are, including Flock, that we can even think of him as somebody who is on his own journey, potentially, and on his own character arc in a similar way. Not at all the same, but in a similar arc, our archetype that our characters have been on. Period. I just thought, I think it's interesting. Going through the episode, dude, right from the start, I knew it was going to be like a next level episode because of the attention to detail early on. We had like the Annie and Reiner fighting moments. Once Reiner swung his arm and hit these people, in a typical episode that isn't going to go off, right? It's just Reiner hitting these people, and I'm like, oh, that was rough. Here, it's like Reiner hitting the people, and we feel the impact of the hit by them hitting the water,
There's
which
like
then
a goriness,
which it prefaces the event later in the episode of the whole like body of water being bloodstained.
Yeah.
You know, it's so good, so good.
There was a lot of I would say this season especially, there has been a definite change in terms of like how much graphically is shown in terms of like injury.
Yeah.
Like we got literal close up of Samuel's face with holes in it.
Oh
like,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was shocked by that. Not shocked because I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe it. I was like shocked that the show was showing me that. Not that it's a bad thing. It just surprised me because I didn't think it would show me a close-up of that.
One thing you and I always tend to like in an anime is when they show us the same events that happened at the end of the previous episode, but in a different perspective,
Yeah.
and then build on that.
Love that.
Armin reaching down to the water,
Oh,
and then, like you just said, showing the face with the bullets in it. It's meant to, I believe, and it does the job of just conveying the emotion of how real and human, unfortunately, this is.
yes. This moment, I only wrote down 2 things really, but one of the things I wrote down was during that moment of that, like the first initial scene of, I wrote down, here we are kind of close up. We've zoomed in on this interaction with Armin and Connie, now grieving the fact that they have just killed these 2 friends that they have history with, that they did not want to have to kill. And it zooms out and you see Annie fighting behind them.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what is she doing? She's killing more. They're grieving 2 deaths while more deaths of people that they don't even have a chance yet to grieve. And they really don't have a chance at all to grieve here because this whole battle is the killing of people that they don't want to have to kill, that they are going to grieve at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that, like, seeing Connie crying, I just shot these people right in front of me, and then us getting the wider view of Annie, like, you know, crushing these other Jaegerists, like,
Yeah.
in the sky, right behind Connie as he's grieving this one life he just took below him. There was something about that I was like, wow.
Yep. It's like in this broad in this massive scale of like a fight, you can focus in and like magnify one little instance, and it just like I don't know, it's war, right?
It's also like something about the timing of this show that there sometimes you really do get those moments of what almost feels like a horrifying silence. And I really like that the show does those things. And we got a very kind of big, very in-your-face version of that with no sound, only music,
Yep.
with the blowing up of the ship at the end. But there's something with the pacing and the choice of when to clear out everything else that's going on to really get a more intimate moment.
Yeah.
Versus when it's just like an action sequence and a lot happening. And there's a really nice pacing that kind of gives you everything that you want.
Yeah. We had a couple of information drops of that the rumbling would travel 600 kilometers in about half a day. I'm assuming these are just like crazy rough estimates, but it's interesting, right? And then it would take 4 days to go over the entire continent, right?
I can't believe we got an answer to that question.
Yeah.
We were wondering.
It was for us, right?
It was totally for us to be like, holy my... The urgency that is here that I didn't even realize. You know? Like, I
Yeah.
think I knew it was urgent in order to save some of the lives and hopefully save future lives by stopping him. But I didn't realize it was like a time crunch for saving everyone. I just thought it was time crunch to save the initial coastal people.
So we know that we're not going to be able to save them, like, by the after credit.
Crazy to hear that. Crazy.
Do you think we are going to see it happen from
Oh.
Aaron's perspective?
Or do we get the possibility of seeing the aftermath instead?
Yeah.
Because that could be interesting. That could be an interesting choice. That we don't get to see it happen. And since we're following these characters that are trying to stop him, maybe it would be compelling to keep in their perspective and keep in their POV, which would be them seeing possible aftermath and knowing they couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine maybe like that feeling? That could be
Yeah.
very compelling of seeing them look upon what they couldn't save.
I think it would reinforce the needing to stop Aaron at all
Yeah.
costs.
So that might be a good choice.
That's a good way. Also, maybe a good choice, just ditch the whole air shit. Maybe try to get Falco to transform again. He kind of looks like a bird.
Hell,
Maybe he can
where
grow
are
some
the
wings. and we can just get there quicker.
I was very excited by this like griffin, like
So
I don't
cool,
know
dude.
it's so cool. It's like a beak. I'm like, why didn't Ymir have this like extra bony face? Like,
Not gonna lie, one of the like most interesting Chimera Titans in the entire show.
I loved it. I was like, look at Falco.
I
Look at
wonder
him.
if the like creator of this story would ever or has ever like made like a concept sheet of what every character or what
would
like
look like
or what
in.
a certain amount of characters would look like, which with different like Titans.
I think that should totally exist if it does not.
So 7 minutes and 34 seconds into the episode, we had my first like I had to take a note of the animation of it like being awesome, and it was when Reiner was protecting Theo, and then we have like a great shot of Annie, like phenomenal,
Oh,
and we're like going we're like I don't know, it's hard to describe even because
grabbing and then
we're stationary, and then he
behind.
she grabs the Jaegerist, and then
it's like
it's so good. But it's just like consistent animation, I guess, in the past few episodes. Like it's been very story heavy, right? So like I was like, oh, okay, this is different. This is kind of crazy. And then we go a little further ahead when we're on the rooftop and Mikasa is just I think even before Mikasa was maybe
It
Connie.
was Connie. Wait, okay, so I want to say one thing about Annie before we leave.
Okay.
There is something about Annie crushing people like bugs in her hand that I think is the most horrifyingly entertaining of all of the dying by Titan that we have in terms of people with Titan powers. That is just so what's the word? It's not like visceral or something. I don't know. There's something about it. Just seeing her just be able to do that, and she has just very like human like hands and just.
Are you trying to say it's satisfying?
I don't know. No, it's entertaining. There's something about it that's like horrifyingly. Like I always said that if I like was gonna get like eaten by a dinosaur or a shark, it needs to be like a really, really big one or a bigger Titan so that it goes quicker.
Yeah.
And I was really terrified of that Titan that like was eating on Kaya's mom.
Yeah.
Because that was scarier to me. So Annie, because she's maybe smaller to some extent than some of the Titans, but there's something about how she chooses to kill and how she chooses to fight that is like so you don't want to peel your eyes away, but you're like, oh, like you're getting crushed and squeezed like a bug.
I think it's interesting because Aaron's another one, and obviously Reiner, like you can like take very specific instances of how they show emotion and their personality through fighting, but in my opinion, Annie has always had the most personality through her Titan form from very early on. Like, the whole her swinging people around.
No, there's just something about like, her killing people.
Yeah.
That I think she's the most horrifyingly entertaining killer.
Yeah.
Titan-wise in this show. I think she might take the cake for that.
I agree with you. I love watching it in a really fucked up way.
Like
even
Reiner,
when it's
like
horrifying.
Reiner like ate someone, but still I was like Annie grabbing people from the sky and crushing them and tossing them away or swinging people.
Yep.
There's something about it that dude, I'm like,
I got so worried for Connie because like Connie rarely has moments where he is like impressively animated in like movement and ODM gear. And it was so nice to see. We see him just like slitting through people's bodies with his blade, and then he gets a kill and moves backwards at the same time. It's so good. Like, it's these types of sequences in animation in the show that like brings me back to the mirror or the reflection sequence of Levi a few seasons ago, and it's just so nice. Oh my god! And then he uses ODM gear to like stab this dude in his eyes. It is insane.
You know what? It's nice. Like people get better. Obviously, we know Mikasa and Levi were like naturals at being really great with the ODM gear.
Yeah.
Like they were just above everyone immediately. But there's something about with Connie being totally awesome in this episode. All it makes me think of is that is like experience.
Yeah.
That is years of being a scout and fighting and trying to protect people you love and killing titans.
Yeah.
That is like years of he's become at an awesome level.
Yeah.
Like,
I would love to know who animated these 14 seconds. Like, it's 14 seconds of literal, like, chef's kiss.
Here he comes
perfection.
through the smoke.
And the sense of scale and traversal in the area that we're in is beautiful.
And then the
it's so well done.
the attention with the connection, the actual like gear connecting to walls, but then when it comes back, there's this spiraling effect as it comes back into the equipment that it's never forgotten. It's always made sure to come back if it's coming back in the frame about to be shot out again. Like,
I'm trying to see, because, yeah, okay.
It's never forgotten that what the gear is and how it works.
So Connie at one point propels himself up, kicks this dude in the face, and then comes back around to slice him with the blade, much like Levi would. And then uses the ODM gear
to pierce someone else, I'm pretty sure, and like use that momentum to shoot himself in the air again.
You know, it's a nice piece of animation where during all this movement, it brings the camera close in so we can see Connie's face.
Like,
yeah.
Furrowed brow.
So good. And it's not, honestly, it is one of my favorite pieces of animation this entire episode. But then Mikasa's, oh my god, dude. Like her, like, jumping and killing people on the roof right afterwards is great. But it's right afterwards when it's the close-up of her dodging the bullets and slitting people. Her getting, Jean saving her a little bit. Sure, she could have...
I mean, she probably would have been shot maybe in the arm or something. I don't know how great the aim of that very scared person would have been. But any injury to Mikasa right now would not have been a great thing to have happen.
Hesitate and will never stop the rumbling. Mikasa throws the blood that's covering her eyes off her face. We see it land onto the roof. It's so good. And it's still not my favorite piece of animation for Mikasa yet. I'm hoping that we can find it.
This show always has these like big, heavy lines that in terms of language are actually pretty like simple. It's not like fancy words or anything, and it shouldn't need to be, and it doesn't need to be, but just to be like hesitation and like, you know, then we won't stop the rumbling, and then obviously the line at the end that we absolutely loved.
I think we get the other Mikasa animation after this.
Yeah,
I could
is it
be
the
wrong.
Explosion one? Is that the one you're getting at?
I think so.
And then there's another person, and she. Yeah.
But mid-roll first, since we're here. Would you like to read it?
Yeah, okay. Information available for public disclosure. Enemies and allies. Looks like we're possibly getting a picture of Samuel here. It looks a little bit like him. When Titans were the greatest threat, Titans were the enemy. When countries were the greatest threat, countries were the enemy. For as long as people hold firm to different beliefs, there will always be an enemy.
Wow.
How profound and accurate.
Hold firm to different beliefs.
Holding firm, it's like there's a closed-mindedness. There's this not willing to accept that other people have different beliefs than you.
If you hold firm in different beliefs, then you're never going to truly understand the other side, right? You've closed yourself off to the idea of that.
And this group that we have that is saving the world, what do they have that the rest of the world doesn't? They have all infiltrated in some way and coexisted and learned of the other people and their humanity.
Yeah.
And that is a difference that many of the other characters and or people in this show and in the world don't have, is that experience that these characters, this gang that is now trying to save the world has.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, I'm looking at Falco's Titan. How the fuck, like...
this beak.
Has he ever, like, had an infatuation with birds?
Like a chicken
the first time we saw
on.
him, wasn't he looking at birds up in the sky?
Yes.
That could be something. I don't know.
You know, maybe he is supposed to be the first flying Titan.
Maybe.
I wish.
He is crazy. Okay, here we go. Okay, so
he rides on the plane. I mean, we do have the plane with us, and he's smaller, so maybe he like the plane like hooks onto him, and he like flies into places and then jumps off or something.
Maybe he like it's his like whole body almost. It's covered in fur and then talons and claws.
See, Honestly, when we got the Warhammer Titan, I was like, now we've hit it. Now we've hit the mark of most interesting, creative looking Titan that we're ever going to get introduced to in this show. Warhammer Titan was it. And now I'm like, what is this? With
Warhammer
Falco?
Titan is hands down one of my favorite Titans, though.
Oh, the design.
Yeah, I like it.
So cool.
With the mallet, too.
Yes.
You know you and I love, like, any characters with big like,
hammers.
oversized hammers.
Big
yeah.
hammers.
If you have an oversized hammer, chances are we're gonna love you.
Yeah.
Like, so we get Falco here staring down Flock, and this is when Flock kind of like snaps, right? 13:15 is when the animation for Flock starts. And again, you know shit's gonna get real when you get like a well-animated close-up of a character. And he goes inside of Falco's talons, starts running on the roof with Hanji chasing after him.
And we get a little nick on the face.
Yeah, oh my god, dude, it's so good.
And
Fighting
the blade
off
was
Hanji.
moving. The blade was moving so fast in the animation that in the still, it looked like it was a saw. Like it had teeth.
Yeah.
It was jagged edges.
It just frame by frame, dude. Like seeing where like Hanji loses a blade.
Yeah, it like breaks off.
It's interesting how they like.
And Flock doesn't really have the means to fight her except for explosives at the moment because he has the thunder spears.
Yeah. So is it like
which could actually hurt him too if he blows up the roof that he's standing on, you know? So it's not great for close to close combat like swords are.
So are the swords connected like a boogie board? You know how when you go to the beach and you like put the boogie board strap on you? Does the sword stay on you like that? Because like Hanji loses the blades right here, right? And is falling. But they still stay with her to the point of when she tries to get back up, you can see that they're right in front of her.
I think they're hooked to the
ODM gear?
The ODM gear.
Yeah.
Which is a smart move on their part to do that.
God, this episode does like they had a chance to really utilize the atmosphere that they're in right now, the scene, right? Because we've never really had a fight in a place like this before in Attack on Titan, and I'm so glad that they used it and didn't just like.
I feel like they must have studied acrobats in order to come up with some of this in the air choreography. You know, that I'm seeing that the way the bodies are twisting and kind of the points of the toe, the way everything is happening is very like fluid and dancer, like that it seems like I'm watching an acrobatic or gymnastic routine.
Or like skydiver or something.
Yeah,
like, it's crazy.
And I'm like, there must have been heavy like anatomical study of like movement of bodies and what flexible bodies are capable of doing.
So Flock's still alive, for sure. Right? He just fell in the water. Is he on the ship?
Like holding on to like the side of it. Is there like a dinghy on the ship and he's like in the little dinghy? He's on the plane. He's just sitting like, on the plane.
Honestly,
like,
well, why wouldn't you be? If there
okay, so narratively, what narratively? Let's go with that. Like if we're just we escaped the enemy and now we're going to this place. And then we're going to fight Eren. That doesn't really like sound like the chain of events, right? It sounds like there needs to be more conflict than that.
If Connie dies, that's a route for it.
Like Flock did hitchhike on this boat, and once they get to the hangar that they're trying to get to, Flock like pops out and kills one of them.
What if they're already flying and Flock kills Connie and it mirrors Sasha's death?
Oh, in the sky. Oh.
Fuck, that would be crazy. If I am Flock, though, maybe we saw him again later in the episode and we're just, like, theorizing for Null, but...
I don't think we did.
But if I was Flock in the moment, and my goal is to try to stop them from getting to Eren, and they just obliterated us and our reinforcements, my best chance is to sneak onto the plane and try to stop them in the last second, you know?
See, yeah, it's like I'm torn on, like, I don't think we saw him confirmed dead.
No.
But, so I think, like, there's a yes and a no, I feel, narratively, in terms of, like, him dying in this episode versus him not having died in this episode. And, like, on one end, I'm like, what about the triangle I talked about earlier about, you know, who else died in this episode and was blown up? That narratively, wouldn't that make sense for Flock to also die? Or it would feel correct or satisfying or fulfilling. But I don't necessarily feel like it is fulfilling for Flock to, you know how Yelena was like, I don't want to die until I see how this ends. I feel like Flock is a similar character to me for that. Like, I don't think he is gone yet.
Yeah, I agree.
And I like that we're thinking that is there a possibility that
he's on the ship,
that he has
stowaway.
Infiltrated the ship.
Yeah,
a stowaway.
Mm-hmm. I think this is when we get the Mikasa animation. I'm just really excited to look at it. It's so fucking cool, dude. I love this show so much.
When it happened, I was like, there's no way she's just standing in front of an explosion.
I love this show so fucking much, dude. We get just the close up and then the blood coming from the middle of this dude's body, and oh my god, Mikasa flies in. The camera shake is really good. The blood's really good. God, it reminds me of Mob Psycho a bit with just like quality of animation. Her sliding on the rooftop, flipping, using her ODM gear and blades. Just, you know what's the coolest fucking thing? How you touched on it. What did you say? Acrobatics.
Yeah.
Like the movement, the body movement in midair, right? Like the spins so that they can change direction and propel themselves into a different direction. You know, it's so compelling. And then, oh my god, the choreography. And I'm like,
how do you even understand human anatomy enough to create something like this? You know, it's.
Dude, Mikasa saw Gabby decapitate Eren and was like, gotta save that one for later, and just decapitated this dude.
I'm gonna try that. And then Annie got decapitated in this episode too.
Yeah.
That was.
Fucking Mikasa wraps her ODM gear wires around this dude. After she already cut his head off. Pulled him and his body to fling it into some other guy, make him hold his dead, decapitated comrade, and then she stabs through the both of them. What the fuck, dude? Attack on Titan, and then his ODM gear.
And she's like accurate in where she stabbed, and she got the heart for sure.
Yeah, and then activates his Thunder Spears, runs away, and fucking like some early 2000s action movie just stands there in the explosion. Blood rains down on her. She is, so good. So great.
And then she just turns and looks at the camera and we're like, whoa, okay, hi.
Dude, the choreography is nuts. It must take so much thought to go into to try to animate the action sequences in this show.
I mean, like, anatomy in human bodies is probably one of the hardest things to learn how to accurately draw. Like, you have to have an intense understanding of bodies, like the actual, you know, how joints move and the actual curvature of muscles and to have like accurate bodies and accurate body movement. I mean, you think back to like I've seen like clips from really much older animation where they recorded first a real person doing the thing, and then they use that as reference to make sure that the movement of the characters was like realistic enough. And there's just something about this that is like such a tall task to me. Like
if you that's something you are taught very early on, and like if you go to school for animation, that's one of the first things they do is
anatomy classes. Anatomy classes?
No, animation.
The animation of like watching someone do it in real life?
Like if you are going to school for animation, most teachers, from what I understand, will have you, if you want to, you know, do a thesis or a project, you have to be your reference footage. If you want your character to run and have that run slowly turn into a walk and then falling on the ground, you are going to use a video of yourself doing the same thing as reference footage. If you want to have you weeping and crying, you're going to use yourself as reference footage. And that's something they teach very on. I don't know who the fuck they're getting reference footage for Mikasa though. Oh my god, dude.
They are watching aerial acrobatics is what they are doing probably in creating some of this. Like when you watch like gymnasts kind of like what's it called when they like push off that like ramp like thing and then they're like
tumble, something
like that, and they're like in the air doing all these different, and I'm like, how are you up there for so long and not falling down?
It's utilizing every second you're in the air, too.
And you're also using your body's momentum in order to push into different directions. And there's something about it that I'm like, to me, it is like, how do you even, like,
it's something
unlock this knowledge and understanding of the body that I feel like, to me, it would seem like I'd have to study it for a pretty long time.
It's something you could never do in a video game, because where in video games you can trick shot, right? You're making your actions a little bit more complex to kind of flex on somebody. In Mikasa's case, she's like utilizing her understanding of body and movement in the air to enhance her actual fighting capabilities, just like Levi does, and seemingly Connie. Like it's just it's so good.
They know how to use their ODM gear.
I cannot, like, a lot of this reminded me of Demon Slayer, like the fights in the Entertainment District arc on top of rooftops. Yeah. But like I don't know if there's an anime that I enjoy their means of fighting.
As much as like
traversal. Yeah, it's like Spider-Man on crack.
Right.
It's crazy.
Doesn't it feel really satisfying that now that we're at this point in the story, we've reverted back to the old ODM gear and our Mikasa isn't using the Thunder Spears in this fight, and Connie isn't. We're getting to enjoy what the original thing we absolutely adored was this like equipment that they had.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really happy to be able to get to see that again here, but fighting people.
Did you expect it to be Keith who took out the reinforcements? I thought it was maybe Levi, but there's no way. He was one of our
guesses for who was looking out the window.
Yeah.
I guess? I don't know. I think I might have said something during the actual episode, but it was all happening, so I don't know if I did.
I don't know. So a lot of times I can't hear you. Yeah. So I can only hear you through the microphone, but then the episode's loud.
But, like, I was so in the moment that now I don't remember what I thought, or if I said it was him. I definitely was wondering who it would have been, because I was like, who would help us that isn't currently involved?
Yeah.
So I was really struggling to figure it out, like... In hindsight, I guess I could have guessed someone like Niccolo or something. You know, he could have been an interesting guess of someone who would have tried to help out. Hitch could have been an interesting guess because Hitch was left behind by Annie and she could have wanted to get involved in some way. But for who it turned out to be, it was very perfect and it was a very nice kind of ending for this character.
It was perfect because of Theo too, like and that connection there and that conversation there. Mm-hmm. And this fucking, you might not pat yourself on the back, but I'm proud of you. And I'm like, this is a conversation.
During it, you said this is the most manly thing I've ever seen. Like,
so cool. Like these two guys who have like spent their entire lives on opposite sides in similar instances, and they can tell just by the looks on their faces.
They don't even know each other. Oh, they don't even know each other's names.
Yeah. And all these nameless kids.
It fits with the theme.
Oh my god. Thread. So good. I liked how the dude was just like, what are you guys doing in there? Please open the door. You're going to miss the birthday party going on upstairs.
We have cake. Ice cream cake.
Yeah.
So how did you feel? Did you feel like silly at all that you hadn't realized there was another ship in this port?
Yeah.
Because I felt a little silly that I didn't even think about that. And when he said, "Oh, that ship is actually a cruiser that's faster," I was like, "Oh, my god, why didn't?"
So could they not tow the ship on the other one? Or was it not ready to? Or like, obviously they were in a fucking rush.
Can you tow that big of a ship?
I feel like Flock is in the airship.
He fell into the water. Yes, when they pulled away, there was like a dead body on the actual thing, but I'm pretty sure that was Samuel's body. I think I find it hard to believe that we are all on the same page on this cruise and we're going to get to the hangar and then we're going to get to where we're going and there's not going to be anything in between that is an obstacle.
Yep.
Or a betrayal or a reason to have emotional conversations. I find it hard to believe that that we're just kind of on a cruise now.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to the hangar. And then once we get to Eren is when we have the big stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe that it's going to be smooth sailing like that.
I think that there would be one more, like...
One more thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one more card in the bicycle wheel spokes to make it go, to make it like a little
I
sound.
can imagine Flock on a bicycle.
Anyway, so Annie and Mikasa's...
Their moment.
Okay, so...
Why did I go like that? Like this. Because they're facing each
Yeah,
other, but it looks like I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Their conversation around the campfire, like I felt like the whole can you actually kill Eren? Can you do it? And if I try to kill Eren,
question.
are you gonna try to defend him?
So really, like
it felt like something that needed to be asked, but at the same time, it felt like something that was never answered. And I think that it's so compelling to bring it back in this instance because Annie doesn't bring it up in the same way that she did last time. Annie's being extremely vulnerable right now.
She is so emotional. And she started during this whole episode, she was building up to this emotional vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because when she gets that, she starts getting injured more and more, and she starts to feel more and more like they're going to be defeated before Falco shows up, and then her head gets knocked off, and she's like, I can't see, and we see her, like, panicking internally. Yeah. Like...
I don't think I ever dreamed or even thought that I would love a moment between Mikasa and Annie like this so much. Like, because it reminds me of all the interactions that they have had when they were training, when we got the flashback of Annie teaching Eren, and then there was like that showdown between Mikasa and Annie, that like the visual one, and then Mikasa asking Eren about his feelings towards Annie when they were in the tunnel at the end of season 1, and just seeing this like extremely genuine moment of Annie saying, I'm sick of killing each other, I don't want to fight with you anymore.
And she's especially vulnerable here because she's just found out that the one person she was focused on saving isn't probably able to be saved, and is probably already dead or about to be dead, or might have already been killed in a few episodes ago.
Not even Eren.
And so this is just, it's like, wow. It's like she's lost her reason for fighting, and she's looking around and she's like, for him and for saving my father, I would have been okay or willing to kill Eren and kill you if you got in my way to killing Eren. But now that her father is no longer that like driving force and motivation, it's like she's like, I don't want to have to even kill Eren to stop him. I don't want to have to kill anyone.
What do you think Eren would do if you found out that Mikasa, Armin, Jean, Connie, Levi, everybody, what do you think Eren would think or do if he found out that all of them were dead? Or they all, like, just died in front of him?
I'm not sure, because we're supposed to be under the impression that those people are one of the main reasons he's taking on what he feels like is a burden for him to bear to keep them all safe. And
then there's somebody
if they aren't there to keep safe anymore... I mean, we brought up, like, why was he so mean and harsh to Mikasa and Armin? And obviously we talked about how my dad recently watched those episodes too. Yeah. And I think my dad came out of those with the same impression we did, which was possible that Eren was purposefully pushing them away.
Yeah.
In order to try to protect them, make sure they weren't heavily involved with the Jaegerists and this whole plan. So if he found out that they were all dead...
Right? Interesting thought. I don't think it would change what he's doing, but I think that I would be interested to see what would happen in his mind.
I think that's a good question, because you're bringing it up right after we were talking about Annie finding out that her reason is probably gone.
Yeah.
And so, Eren, what would happen if his reason was possibly gone? Mm-hmm. You know? I think that's a really great question.
I wonder what Historia is doing right now.
Oh, I have no clue. One thing I love about Attack on Titan, which I thought of when we got that shot of Mikasa and Annie looking at each other is differences in facial structures in the show. I love that there are different noses.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that Annie has a different looking nose than Mikasa in this shot.
Me too.
And that people's faces, some are longer, some are wider, like different shapes, you know, heart shape. Like, I don't think I see that enough and as much as I should.
Yeah.
And it makes me very happy to see just like differences in faces and facial structures and noses. And I love it. Thickness of eyebrow.
Yeah.
Everything.
I can't believe Mikasa still wears... Well, of course she wears it, but I just... the significance of the scar on her face that she's had for seasons and seasons and seasons.
It's very prominent right now.
It's deep, you know?
Yeah.
Who gave it to her? You know? I like this episode a lot. It was one of my favorites this season.
I agree. Flock has a scar like Mikasa now. They're twins.
Yeah, true.
We ended off with that line. Everyone's gathered here, and we get the awesome line from Hanji about why. Well, it was before before what Annie said about not wanting to kill anyone anymore. But I just really, really love this. And I really like kind of who we're seeing and how their faces look as this line is delivered.
Yeah.
We have Peak still very much comforting Gabby, and it seems like she completely understands and is saddened too. I love Peak. But Hanji's line, he did it entrusting us to save people whose names he'd never know. And I'm like, I think Hanji is kind of, I don't know if what I want to say is the voice of reason lately, but remember when Jean was kind of starting to justify, you know, possibly letting this happen, and Hanji was like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not justifying this, and she's really decided how she felt about it, and she's really like stuck with that. Like she's firm with her belief that like saving everyone else on the planet is her priority.
I think that people could overlook it, but it's very prominent that Hanji makes an extraordinary commander, and she is very steadfast and outwardly competent with her beliefs and what she thinks that they should do. And she's an extremely quick thinker, and I'm proud of Hanji.
And we also know that she goes through similar hoops that Armin goes through internally. Of both of them were the brainy ones. They weren't supposed to be the commanders and the ones in charge. And both of them through Erwin's death were thrust into positions that they weren't supposed to be in. They were supposed to be the scientist and the strategist, you know? And both of them are self-deprecating. They doubt that they are the one that should be followed or that knows what's best or could lead people the best. But Hanji does a really good job. And I think her firmness I think why Hanji succeeds in a way that Armin, I think, is learning is that Hanji knows herself. I think she knows herself pretty well. I think Armin has had to struggle with being thrust into a world where he now has other people's memories within him, where knowing his true self and what's his feelings and his thoughts is now called into question to a point that could lead to having a wary, like, unsure sense of self compared to what I think Hanji has a more definite, like, I know who I am, I know what I believe, firmness in knowing herself.
I don't think I've ever seen a show do something like this in the case that I don't think I've seen a character be so relevant and important seasons after they've died. And like Erwin, you know, like how important he is still when you look at Armin, Hanji, Flock, like
he's there.
His shadow is still visible in the series, and I think that that's so cool. Like,
and also like Levi thrown in there, like Levi's reason for wanting to kill Zeke.
Yeah.
Like Erwin is very instrumental still in this story, and how characters feel about themselves and whose shoes they're trying to fit into, who they're trying to emulate.
I would love to see Erwin's like thoughts about
Let's
this whole thing.
let's have a seance, bring Erwin back for an
Ouija
episode.
board.
Once we get to the hangar, we'll like call in someone who can speak to Erwin, and he can tell us how he feels about all this.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what's gonna happen.
All right, that's all I have. You.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.